Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast this week. This week, we have the pleasure of interviewing the naked yoga goddess. So Kimberly, I basically have met her many, many years ago when we first did our Bikram yoga training together. And through these years, we've seen each other grow and do other things. And of course, her yoga path led her into this path of naked yoga. And I've been watching her over the years, and I think that she has inspired myself included, many other women, especially because there can be a lot of shame and stuff around women and their bodies. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you or let Kimberly introduce herself to you and tell you a little bit about her story, about how she came upon this naked yoga business of hers.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here and be able to tell my story. Because the funny thing about being comfortable with being naked, nudity in our society, it's I'm always surprised at the response. I tell you because I can have a varied response from complete and utter shock to, oh, of course, I get it. And so I started to realize and recognize that this, as it was for me, an alchemist process, an alchemist practice, that when you being naked, it's such a personal, it's such an intimate, and that's the thing that I would love for people to know, that for me, it became this intimate expression, and I see how people respond. It is an intimate expression that kind of gives me this window and glimpse into not only what they think about me and my practice of nudity and what I teach, but how they think about nudity. So already just the conversation of nudity starts to open this space of intimacy with self and with others. And that's one of the main reasons why I started this. I actually moved the practice from just something that I do in my attic
Yes.
and in my private space to sharing it as a workshop for
Others.
for others. And so I so appreciate you saying that you felt that and it was inspiring.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it, we live in a society where, like you said, they could be from 1 to 100. People have a different idea about what that would mean, like if you would to be naked in front of other people except your romantic partners or like family members or something like that, right? And so it really stems, I think, from upbringing and culture, because of course there are some cultures. I'm from Africa, born and raised in South Africa, and Africans in the past used to wear just little skin cloths, and the females they didn't wear anything to cover their boobs, basically. So it just really depends on what culture we're living in, what culture we were born into. And, and then from that place is where you get your belief systems around it. So everything is really just about a belief. But I believe that if there's a belief that is hurtful to you, that you can change that. Right? Because it's not, everybody has a point of view, but it doesn't mean that it's the truth. And so I think that what you're doing is probably very valuable for a lot of women, because they perhaps feel like they want to be more open and free, but they don't have a platform to practice that. And it's like anything else. I think if you actually do it, it sounds so out there, perhaps for many people, but you actually, when you do it, I know when I go skinny dipping, I love it. Absolutely love it. But for many people, it's like, it's not so much about how I would feel about it. I always think about the rest of the people around you. Like if you were just come naked to a beach, for example, where it's not just for naked people, the people who go there, who would have bikinis on, would be thinking, oh my God, there's something wrong. Or even if there's children. So when you go to Europe, there are some places in Europe where people just get changed in front of the children, in front of everybody. It doesn't matter. So it's really just, it comes down to this cultural thing and these beliefs that we had built around it. You know, and some of these beliefs can be harmful to people. And it's nice that you are offering this opportunity for people to express that if they feel they want to.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I think that I want to create a space where we can be safe, loved, and free. That is what the premise of my practice and what I offer to my students is, that platform, that space, because as you said, we don't always get an opportunity to be in that space. And for balance sake, and for balance purposes alone, you know, you can control life, life happens, but there are opportunities to balance what happens in life in a place where you, when you don't feel safe, loved, and free, you can come, and then that space is provided for you to explore and express yourself as your body wants to express itself, safe, loved, free, comfortable, and without feeling that you're being threatened or harmed, because we intrinsically looking at, you know, and I've had the wonderful opportunity to really study nudity and naked communities, and intrinsically we are not born believing that being naked is
wrong. Of
that's
course, we come
wrong.
naked.
You know,
we arrive naked.
absolutely. And
everything is learned.
it's very much learned, it's programmed for purposes that have to do with all sorts of dynamics, from, you know, money and capitalism to control, religion, just various different things. And but however, the truth of the matter is that we've all in our societies and cultures have spent time before there were clothes. You know, there's still some cultures around the world that at a certain age you're naked because you just can't afford clothing. So it's just a part of, you know, that's just how things are economically in your whole society. So, you know, this whole idea that we start to put our weaponize and villainize nudity is definitely what I push back on. I push back on it by promoting things, by holding space, by practicing it in my own way. But I do realize that it's it is not necessarily being naked is not something necessarily that I will ever change the mind of some. There are some people who will always believe that being naked is all about sex and sexual pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what comes in a lot with a lot of different what we call religious practices or religions, right? It's like I know that there are some cultures where the women have to be completely covered up, and so that another man can't put his eyes on her or something like that. So that's another whole chapter of what people are having to go through. And then there's also some cultures that says, well, you have to cover yourself so that you don't tempt the man. Or so it seems to me, and I'm not for or against any of this, it's just making a conversation about it. It seems to me, though, that in most of these cultures, the female is the one that has to do all the covering up. And the female is the one that's supposed, like, just like in Adam and Eve, Eve tempted Adam when then you know. And so it seems to me, unfortunately, that somehow the female seems to be the one that needs to take on the responsibility of that, which I think perhaps there's something awry here. Like, who wrote that? Who made that up? And then without questioning it, we just accept it because that's how it is. And so it's lovely to have these conversations, to just explore, not to talk about who's right and who's wrong, just to talk about and explore, where do all these things come from? And at the end of the day, it's about, as a female, can you make a choice and not be, how can I say, be called out on it, or, oh, she's a slut, or she, you know what I'm saying? It's like, at the end of the day, can we as females make a different choice and still be accepted? Really is that question, right? Yeah, and we don't know, and it's different in every culture. And some females who have tried to speak out and speak up have been killed for that, so it's like the extreme that we take this this responsibility that we have placed mostly on the female is kind of out there, if you think about it.
Absolutely. And I think that when we look at a whole trajectory of women and how we as women express ourselves, there is that collective in all of our societies, even in the West, in America, where there is this, we have to deal with issues of control. We have to deal with issues of control when it comes to our bodies, our sexuality, our sensuality, how we want to communicate, what we want to express about ourselves. And, the issue of control, for me, speaks more to what we have to deal with as women and not issues of sex. Just like when we have issues of sexual assault and rape, we know those are not crimes of sex. We know that is about power. And when someone is feeling powerless, that is a very skewed, sick way of obtaining power. Right? And
so it's a use for that.
So, in controlling this narrative of how we as women express ourselves, whether it's, oh, you guys are naked, that's not really feminism, that's not doing anything, oh, you're still this, oh, you think shaking your butt is something, oh, you think twerking means anything, oh, why do you have to wear that makeup? What? Those questions, to me, it gives the evidence that there is this issue of power, there is an issue of power, a power struggle. A power struggle. And the answer for those who feel they can't communicate, they cannot control women, is to put these laws, these narratives, to put this dynamic of, can we be accepted? Well, accepted into what? As soon as we're born, we're accepted. What are we trying to be accepted into? Humanity? Like what the, and so no, me having nipples and showing my nipples just like a man can show his nipples anywhere, anytime, without question, doesn't say anything about me wanting to show my nipples. It says something about the control and the issues of power that come up, that now we are creating laws saying, oh, that's indecent. That's indecent exposure, censoring my body, in spaces where my children don't even feel embarrassed or feel that I'm doing something that, that's inappropriate. I have been censored on social media. Like, you are waking up one morning like, oh, I just posted something so beautiful in the sky, my melanin and my dark skin. I'm feeling so really proud and connected to the earth. I post that, and then I get a message saying, oh, this is for sexual purposes.
It's how they interpret it. And that's really the problem that people face, not just in this area, but in so many other areas. I just would like to ask you, so you say Naked Yoga Goddess brings sacredness to nakedness. So can you express a little bit about that? What does that mean? And how have your clients that have come, participants that have come to this type of yoga, what was their, what did they discover about themselves?
Well, I can give so many different testimonies.
Examples.
So
Mm-hmm.
like so many examples, but one in particular, because you've brought it up, was there was a woman who was she's Muslim and she attended
Mm-hmm.
class.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And
Okay.
it was women only,
Mm-hmm.
and she was completely naked. And so one part of the workshop, because it's a 2-hour workshop, it's not just a 1-hour yoga class, it's 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we digest and talk about our experience at the end of the class, for the very reason it's a triggering into an awakening for your spirit and soul, and just that. And
I can believe that so much.
so she
Yeah.
said, in her culture, she could be killed
Yes.
for
For this. Yeah.
just this right here. And
Yes.
we were all in tears. But
Mm-hmm.
just that alone, just being able to hold that space
Mm-hmm.
for that experience, whether she ever has that experience in life, she can be 90 years old, and think back to that sacred moment that she
Mm-hmm.
shared and was witnessed by a community of women, who were loving her. There was another woman who had experienced sexual assault in the
Mm-hmm.
military and literally had experienced so much trauma she wasn't able to ever take her clothes off, not even alone. So she just felt this like intuitive, you know, do it, and
The
showed up
healing came.
showed up, experienced the shedding of it all.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, it was a very moving experience for her, having
yeah.
to be seen in that, cultures where Black women and white women get to share in that space and see that
We're
we are
all just the same underneath.
beautiful bodies.
We're all just the same underneath. Yeah.
So yeah,
There
there's
really is no
so
difference. All the difference we make up is what man makes up. And I was going to say earlier on to you when you talked about, with women that, there's so many laws against you, like, you can't be naked, you can't show your breasts or anything like that. And there are really cultures all around the world where women are walking around with showing their breasts and there's nothing. So it really is all cultural, and we have to, ask, like, why did they come up with these laws? What was it supposed to protect us from? If they're saying, oh, it was to, I don't know, not to entice men or whatever it is, but there really are cultures all around the world that live very peacefully, where women's breasts are not covered. So, you really have to ask yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Nipples don't attack, they actually nourish. I mean, that's just facts. Nipples
Yes.
nourish, they are not attacking anyone.
Yeah. So it might be nice if we could all take responsibility for ourselves and say, like, if I, like you said, like, if you're thinking something about another person, that's about you. It doesn't mean anything about them. But unfortunately, we're not quite there yet in our society. We still, we're still expected to do our bit, basically, to keep this, whatever it is that they want, peace or, around females' bodies. And because really it's mostly just females' bodies that we're going on about. It's really not so much about male bodies, is it? Do you ever get males come to your workshops too?
Oh no, I've had co-ed classes.
And how is that experience?
I will say that I started teaching. So for myself,
Yes.
I lost my mother in 2014, and I really dealt with depression and anxiety, and it
From
was,
losing that big person in your life.
yeah, like I dealt with grief in a way that I'd never experienced grief before. for the very first time in 2014. And there was this moment where I was in my attic, because I wrote about this, and I was published about this story of me going in my attic and looking in the mirror and just literally intuitively shedding everything that didn't serve me. And I stood naked in front of the mirror, and there was this moment where I started to see parts of my mother in my body. And that was the sacredness of that moment where I could cry, I could grieve. I felt this vulnerability and invulnerability in that moment where I was just like, wow, I'm connected. I wanted to communicate with my mother again. And in that moment of me seeing her body, her breast, her arms on me, I was like, there she is. That's the communication. The communication is in the sisterhood, our witnessing. So my brand initially began for women and always about women. And I started to get a big pushback from women, saying, hey, men need this, men need this, they need work. And so huge vetting process. I started going into spaces where men were vetted and I felt safe, women felt safe, and I had co-ed classes. And the men experienced the workshop in the same way. They cried, they laughed, they shared. It was the most human experience that I have experienced in my life, where we literally just we were energy, just energy expressing energy and then witnessed by energy and sharing energy. And it wasn't about the physical form, because the form, it was just moving, the form had the opportunity to move and be used in other purposes, like stretching and lengthening and feeling the body align to every inhale and exhale breath. Having so many years of experience with yoga, you're going to get yoga in this class and the principles that make yoga so special, which is the alignment and connection of the mind, body, and the breath. And that breath expressing energy, both physically and in our subtle bodies. So we deal with the chakras and aligning and balancing the chakras. So it has no gender.
Exactly.
That's
because men have similar issues with women. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm not sure where it comes from, but in our cultures, there's a lot of shame around body. There's so much shame around body. And even when children develop, when they want to know about their body parts, and then depends on what kind of family you're born into. If people they don't talk about their sexuality, or I remember when I grew up in a big family, and we walked naked in front of each other, but I do remember by the time I turned to be like a teenager, I was more like, lock the door, lock the door, lock the door. So it's like something that's just coming into us to keep this kind of like protected or separate, or, and then I would imagine when you get to when you have an opportunity to do this workshop with you, it's just to basically unlearn all that, that doesn't serve you, and to let go of the shame, because your body is beautiful. And so true. I think many people don't realize your body is just not there for sexuality. Your body is there for so many. Your body is like the biggest gift you've ever gotten from this universe is your body. And it's not just for sexuality, or even for mothers. It's not just for children. It's so much more. And the same with males, I think, because I'm not sure exactly why, but with the male, because they don't carry the baby, it could be that, maybe they feel ashamed that they can't. Maybe they feel inadequate that they can't. Maybe they feel they're not as powerful because they can't. There are many different layers and layers that we make up, that we can have the opportunity, I think, to shed when you have the opportunity to come and do one of your workshops. It's just to say, maybe we can stop with the blame of each other. Oh, it's the man's fault, or it's the woman's fault. Maybe we can just be bodies, and maybe we can just use the body even to heal. I really believe that we can do that. And in yoga, of course, we do that too, even if you have little clothes on. But in Bikram yoga, don't wear too much. But, I always see that the body is your instrument that you can use to really get to a place within yourself that's very deep, that's beyond the logic, because the logical mind keeps us so distracted. And when you come into for example, a Bikram yoga class that I know, you use that body to really reach deep inside of yourself, to connect with that place in yourself, so that when you leave, then you have a sense of renewal in yourself, a sense of connectedness with yourself. Because I really believe that the reason we do so many ugly things in the world is because we are not connected to ourselves. So it's really an opportunity for anyone, if they can, to go and explore something like this, especially if they're having body issues, if they feel ashamed of their body, if they're confused about what their body is supposed to be here for them. And like I said, if you're really stuck in that my body is only for sex, well, then you have a really big problem. You should really go to one of these things, because your body is for that too, but it's so much more than that.
So much more. And we always know, we talk so much about our soul and our spirit and energy and soul and spirit,
but we never talk about our sexuality.
Well, yeah. Our bodies, and
like it's a taboo. It's taboo.
Our bodies are these beautiful, humble servants that's carrying our spirit, soul, and energy around. Like, yes. Our bodies are, making it possible for us to have even this 3D experience. So the idea that you live in a house, but you don't maintain that house, you don't clean it, you don't repair it, you don't take care of it, you don't have pride in it, you don't have loved ones over in it.
Yeah, I got it. I have a question for you. I have a question for you. It's around sexuality for people. So when you say sacredness to nakedness, and then there's also this thing where people find, when we talk about sexualities, again, some cultures, like it's a taboo question. And for some people, it's like they don't even realize what's going on, because I have an insight about it, that when you have a sexual relationship with someone, what are you looking for? Like, I think there's a certain time where you feel loved. There's a certain time where you feel connectedness, where there's no separation. And isn't it that most people, the reason we get stuck on the sexual aspect of it is because really we're looking for that connectedness, and we're really looking for that love. But, so instead of just using the other person for that, what is your take on that?
On relationships with other people?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So I have a very interesting take on that. It's funny that you should ask me that question.
Yes.
I strongly believe in the self, capital S, self. And I definitely have had the opportunity in this last 3 years, like a lot of us, to hone into a spiritual practice, a daily practice where I am connecting with myself. And one of the things that was revealed to me in that meditation process is that we really, truly have both masculine and feminine energy.
Yes, we do. Of course, we do.
Strongly within us.
And we can interchange them with each other. Quite like, as a yoga practitioner, no problem to do that.
That they're alive and strong. And I think often when we are getting frustrated or angry in a relationship, or in any relationship, whether it's with family, familiar, or partner, loving, romantic, it is, I believe, an energy of the masculine within them and the feminine them not being aligned and connected to masculine and feminine within you, and not necessarily a place where it's a oil and water, we should separate. However, but to understand how those energies are connected, are orbiting around each other, and are here to heal and serve. So for instance, my masculine energy has a very protective way about it, especially over my feminine energy. If I meet, I'm a heterosexual woman, so if I meet a man and we're interested in one another, my masculine energy is I believe is being set out there, checking his masculine energy out to
see if it's a match,
if it's good enough for my feminine energy. My feminine energy has another way about her, and she likes to get along with the feminine energy in her partner.
in the man.
If my partner has developed or created a feminine energy that is really catty or argumentative and aggressive, my feminine energy doesn't like that and will repel that guy, and there will be arguments. So I do think that when we come into ourselves and we understand not only our chakras and energy, our subtle energy body, but also how our masculine energy and that dualism plays to unite the capital S self, and then how we can interact with someone else in a more balanced and connective way takes for me, meditation and a spiritual practice. So that's how I tend to see. And I also like if I'm doing any sort of coaching with a client and they're having relationship problems, I want to talk about the masculine and feminine energy
within them,
within them and within their partners, and how they're working. Because sometimes my masculine energy will really like the masculine energy. Like, we'll get along, like we have great conversations, something about the masculine energy, we're connecting. But then the feminine energy, and his feminine energy just is not working. Maybe he has no feminine energy at all. That's not going to work.
So that's a whole nother other level of looking at it. Okay, listeners, I hope you're listening out there. And I was actually going to try and make this point about how sometimes when people go over the top with having different partners, they're looking for something, because in that moment when they are having a sexual interaction with someone, perhaps they are looking for that kind of, you can also call it a fix if you want to call it that, like how addicts, they want that fix, but they don't understand that actually when you're talking about, we obviously have male and female inside of us, and when we work on the self to get that balanced, then the right opportunities will come, what we need. And I really think that's actually a great way to end this kind of segment, talking about just bringing in the nakedness and the sacredness to nakedness. And there's sacredness in everything, of course. I mean, that's why I talk to different people weekly, because I like to talk about how spirituality is part of our daily life. And your body is not excluded from that. Your sexuality is not excluded from that. And then, if you want to do a naked workshop, it's not excluded from that. Like, because for a lot of people, like you said, on the scale of 1 to 100, like people can have all different, they can be at the 0 end, they could be at the 100 end, they could be at the middle end. It's like basically it's a nice question to ask yourself: how comfortable am I with my physical body? How comfortable am I with my sexuality? So this is a great opportunity just for listeners out there to check in with themselves. And if you ever feel that you wanted to explore one of Kimberly's workshops, I'm going to put all the details at the bottom here in the podcast. And Kimberly, I just want to thank you. And actually, I want to thank you personally for doing this work, because it's very brave. It really is, because there's a lot of people who would put their nose down on it, and it's like, oh, it's just not for me, and oh, it's terrible, and oh, and it's brave to, because you found sacredness in that nakedness, and you want to share that, and you want to give an opportunity to others to heal, because it's another way of healing. And whatever modality works for people, it's great that we can be of service to people. So I want to thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing what you're going to do. And if you ever come to Canada to do a workshop, let us know. I'm sure you'll find a few people that'd be willing and happy to do it. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity to normalize what I do, to speak on it in a very constructive way. Because I realize that for some, this is novice, this is clickbait, this is like an ooh ah moment. But no, for me, this is actually a belief. This is how I want to serve the world and give back to the world. And for those that believe that this will serve you and who and what you are to be perfect, whole, and complete, yes, by all means, let's connect. And I'm here for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kimberly. You take care.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Bye-bye. Namaste.